Hello class, this is Dr. Long again. I'm filming this short video to give you some further insight about your term paper assignment. Now, I would highly urge you to read the term paper guideline that I have available on D2L, that I've attached to the announcement about your term paper, and that I'll also email out. And it's a very extensive guideline. It gives all my expectations. It gives the sources you need to use, the due date, the instructions on how to turn it in on the Dropbox in D2L, and it gives at the very back of it, it gives a grading rubric that I will use in large part to grade your papers as well. Now, the basics of the paper, the term paper guideline gives really extensive details, so please, again, read it. I urge you to do so. But the basics of the term paper is that it's a 5 to 7 page paper, 12-point font, double spaced on paper on the civil rights movement. And I think you'll find this paper very interesting, very timely, and one certainly that is very appropriate for an American history class. And I hope that will cause you to think about a lot of issues in our nation's history and issues that are still with us in many ways as well. Now, there are two big sources that you will need to use for this paper. The first is some excerpts of a PBS documentary that was made on the civil rights movement called Eyes on the Prize. And there are 2 episodes that you'll need to watch some excerpts for. As you watch them, please take good notes. Please pay very close attention to it. This is all linked from the GHC library through what is called Films on Demand. So from the link, which is provided on the term paper guideline, again, the link is on the term paper guideline, you can click on it. You might need to just cut and paste it onto your browser, but do that and it should pop right up and you should be able to watch it on your computer or your smartphone. And I think you'll find that interesting because it will give you footage of the civil rights era, a lot of people involved in it, including the 2 main individuals, 2 main figures that you'll be grappling with in your term paper, namely Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X. And these are 2 really interesting figures. They come from very different backgrounds. I want you to try to put yourself in their shoes a little bit as you watch these videos and as you read about them as well. Now, speaking of reading about them, in addition to the PBS documentary Eyes on the Prize, the excerpts you need to watch, you'll also need to read a short book about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X. It will compare and contrast them and give a lot of short documents about them as well. And the title of this book it's by David Howard Pitney. It is called Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and the Civil Rights Struggle of the 1950s and 1960s, A Brief History with Documents. Now let me briefly show you what it looks like as well. Okay, so that's the book. You can also find the full title with the publication information, the ISBN number on your syllabus as well as on the term paper guideline. Now, I hope that you bought it at the beginning of the semester. The GHC bookstore was selling it then. It may still have it now, but in many cases, after the semester is well underway, it will send any unpurchased books back to the publisher. That may be the case now. If so, don't panic. You can certainly order it at any online seller of books, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, etc. It doesn't really matter to me. You do absolutely need a copy of the book, though, and don't wait until the last minute to order it because you'll be in a world of hurt if the term paper is due in a day or 2 and you still don't have the book. And once you get the book, read the introduction, take good notes on that. You'll see a number of short primary sources that follow it. You'll need to read those as well. You won't need to use all of them, but you'll certainly need to use some for your term paper. So those are the 2 main sources you'll need to use for it. As the guideline states, you'll need to cite from those sources for your paper. And the guideline gives you very specific minimal requirements for citations. Now, a few other suggestions for your term paper. Once you read the term paper guideline, one thing that I hope will strike you pretty quickly is that there are 2 big topics that you can choose for to answer the paper. Now, choose one of those main topics. Do not do both of them. Now, that will be a major problem. You'll see term paper topic 1, term paper topic 2. They deal with different issues of this question about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X and their role in the civil rights movement. So choose one of those, and once you choose one of those, what you'll see is it's in essence a series of interrelated, interlocking questions. Then you'll need to go through and answer all of those questions. The more specific you can be, the more examples you can give, the more details you can give, and of course citing your sources, where did you get this information, that will certainly improve the quality of your paper and raise your grade accordingly. Your paper should be written using complete sentences, using complete paragraphs, and that means indenting your paragraphs. You need to have an introduction in which you introduce the topic and have a thesis statement, your main argument. The term paper guideline gives you an example of that. You'll then need to have a main body in which you go through systematically and answer the questions, giving specific examples and citing your sources. And then you'll have a conclusion in which you wrap up your paper and come back to your thesis statement again. And certainly you can refer to it in the main body, but in the conclusion you should refer back to it again and draw your paper to an end. Now, in doing so, in writing your paper, it's important also to proofread your paper. Your paper should generally be free of grammatical mistakes, awkwardly worded sentences, spelling mistakes, and so forth. And certainly you can use spell check to help correct some of these problems, although I will say you can spell a word correctly and use the wrong word, so be careful of that. In many ways, a better way to make sure that your paper is well written is to read it aloud. When you read it aloud, you will catch errors, you will catch awkwardly worded sentences that may not make a lot of sense, and that will give you an opportunity to reword those sentences and to clarify your writing. Now, I will say that I will not grade you as stringently as an English professor, but nonetheless, I will count off for spelling mistakes, grammatical mistakes, awkward worded sentences, and the like. And the reason for this is if your paper is littered with these sort of things, you will not be able to communicate your point very clearly, and your reader will not understand what you're trying to convey, or the point you're trying to convey. And so therefore you will lose points for that. Now, some other tips on how to improve your paper in that regard. In addition to reading your paper aloud, you can have someone else read it. If you have a roommate, a spouse, a friend, a sibling, anyone, a neighbor, anyone who might read it aloud who's willing to do so, they may not know much about the subject. They may not have read the book or seen the documentary, but they certainly will know if they understand what they're reading, right? So someone, just another set of eyes can help you out. Along those same lines, and the term paper guideline talks about this, we have the tutorial center, which even for an online class, gives you the opportunity to send in your paper and get some feedback. Likewise, if you want to send me your paper, or even just an excerpt of your paper to get some feedback, I'm happy to do so. So there are many ways you can go about having not only proofreading it yourself, but having someone else help you with it to improve the quality. Now, last but not least, I would encourage you to not wait to the last minute to work on this paper. Begin watching the documentary, begin reading the book as soon as you can. This is not an assignment that you can do overnight. It's not structured that way. So the earlier you can begin working, the better you'll do, the less stressful this will be. So don't wait to the last minute. And I hope you learn a lot from this paper. I hope you find it an interesting topic. And if you have questions, please let me know. All right, well, I'll stop with that. Thanks for watching. Bye now.